All right, guys, so what I'm about to teach you guys in this video is something extremely important. Every single person needs to understand this system because it will be the difference between making and saving and spending, wasting, whatever that may be, thousands of Lucent. I know this is low-key kind of a recycled title from Lost Ark, but honestly, that video was helpful. And I would imagine that this video is going to be helpful too. And if it is helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Getting super close to 100K subs. Follow me on Twitch. Come hang out with me on that platform. Ask me questions or just come chat. Join our community. I'm streaming a lot of Throne to and through the launch. So without further ado, we're going to get right into this one. And I will try my best to keep this as simple as possible and straight to the point. All right, so how are we going to be saving thousands of Lucent in Throne and Liberty? Well, the way you're going to be saving thousands of Lucent in Throne and Liberty is by understanding the trading system. The trading system is a part of vertical progression that every single player in the game is going to have to know, whether or not you are a 1 month Andy or a long-term Andy. This is directly tied to not only how you progress in the currency that you make, but also how you go about increasing your power, effectively becoming stronger. Now, before we talk about the trading system, I do want to mention that there are two important things that I would highly recommend if you are trying to be more efficient with how you're going about your progression and the Lucent that you're making or spending. Number one, my first bit of advice is to join a top guild. The reality is, the better your guild is, the more efficient you will be because your progression is tied to your guild to a certain degree. Now, it's totally fine to join a casual guild that's just kind of playing and chilling. That's totally fine. But if you are trying to min-max progression, be efficient. And certainly if you want to go hardcore, it will be mandatory for you to join a guild that is within the top alliance that is essentially contesting all the content, all the significant content in the game, because that is going to give you an opportunity to simply make more Lucent or save more Lucent. If you're not in the top guild, the only way you're going to be able to get an arc boss weapon pretty much is through the auction house, and that shit's going to be really expensive, anywhere from 30 to 100,000 Lucent for a single arc boss weapon. But if you join a competitive guild that is pretty much contesting all of the significant content, that will give you an opportunity to actually get those arc bosses for free, or at the very least significantly cheaper at a fraction of the cost, because guilds obviously control arc boss weapons. So that's just an example of how guild progression is tied to your efficiency. And the second thing is to make sure you choose a weapon class that you're going to stick with at least until tier 2 gear comes out, and you choose a build that you are not going to pivot from, because if you pivot from it, whether you're a whale or free to play, you are going to backtrack. It's going to set you behind, and you're going to be spending a lot more currency in order to do so. Okay, fair enough. So first thing we have to understand before we talk about the traits is the currency. In Throne and Liberty, you have two different currencies. Okay, you have what's called Lucent and you have what's called Solent. Solent is the in-game gold currency that is pretty much just used for everything. You farm it in game, you spend it when you upgrade your gear, when you do this, do that, even dissolve, dismantle stuff. You're always using Solent. Solent's very important. You also have Lucent. Lucent is the tradable currency that you can swipe your credit card for and buy unlimited amounts of, right? But this currency can also be obtained in game by selling items on this auction house, as well as other methods. But the main way you're going to be making this Lucent is by selling items on the auction house by playing the game. All right, so let's talk about the traits now. I've got my gloves pulled up, and right in the middle of this menu, you're going to notice where it says trait. I have attack speed, hit, and melee evasion. In Throne and Liberty, you can have up to 3 different types of traits, and each trait can be upgraded 3 additional times, so a total of 4 of that respective trait. Attack speed right here, each attack speed trait is 2%, and I have 4 of them. You can see that I have 4 based off of the 4 bars that are beneath the text right here. Each one being 2%, that gives me a total of 8%. When it comes to hit traits, each trait will give you 20 hit, 20, 40, 60, 80 for 80 trait, or 80 hit. Same with melee evasion. This is going to be 40, 40, 40, 40 for 160. If you click on this button right here, you're going to see what traits you can roll for each item. I can take a look at the ring here. These are the traits that I can roll for that. And what you're going to notice is that every piece of gear has different traits that you can roll on them. It depends on the piece of gear. Generally speaking, plate gear is going to give you similar trait options, and leather is going to give you similar trait options, and cloth is going to give you similar trait options. You can see right here, this is a cloth top. I can do magic and melee. With the ranged here, I can do ranged and magic. So it just kind of depends on the type of piece it is, and also there is some additional uniqueness to it depending on the actual piece of gear. But just know, for the most part, every single piece of gear has different traits, and you can look these up right here. Now you can also look up each individual trait's value via the auction house by clicking on this button right here, and it'll show you right here. Ranged evasion, here are a bunch of helmet ranged evasion traits that you can search. We're going to come back to this here in a little bit, but before we do, I want to show you guys a base piece of gear first. You can see when you get a base piece of gear, you're going to see that it has one single trait attached to it. You will need to unlock the 2 other traits, and in order to unlock the 2 other traits, you are going to need to find a trait or a dupe of the exact same item. Okay, this is only for unlocking. So if I take a look at this right here, I happen to have 2 general melee gators, right? This one is ranged evasion and this one is melee endurance. Let's say I want to have ranged evasion and melee endurance on my piece of gear. Then I will go to equipment enchanting. I will select the gators right here. And as you can see, I can unlock this second trait line here by feeding this into this piece of gear, into the main piece of gear, and that will give me ranged evasion 40, and it will give me melee endurance 40. I'll actually do this so that you can see. Here we go. Now this piece of gear has ranged evasion 40 and melee endurance 40. You're welcome. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm doing it for the sake of the video. Okay, so I've got my melee gators here. I have ranged evasion and melee endurance. Now, let me just remind you, in order to unlock a locked trait, you need a dupe of that item or a trait from that item. What is the difference between a dupe and a trait? Well, here's the difference. If I go to the auction house here, this item, let me actually go back here. We'll just stay with armor here to keep it consistent. These right here, this is an actual piece of gear. You can equip this gear. It's a base piece of gear. Now this right here, you can see the little light gray scratchings on the corners there. This means that it is a trait. So you can see this is a piece of gear. This is a trait. How do you get these traits? Well, you extract them from base pieces of gear. Let's say I want melee endurance from this headpiece right here. I can go to trait extraction and I can extract the trait from this piece of gear. So the helmet will disappear, it will get consumed, and I will have a melee endurance 40 trait. Now, why would anyone do this? The reason why people would do this is because traits are sellable, but most base gear is not sellable. As you can see, this piece of gear is not tradable. How can you tell? Well, tradable gear has a little brown border around the corners. If I go back to the auction house, you're going to see that there's a little brown border around this showing that it can be tradable. The only way you can get these pieces of gear to be tradable is to craft gear and proc a great success, which I believe is I want to say 10 or a 20% chance. It's either one of the two. Maybe I'll write it on the screen. I'm pretty sure it's a 10% chance to proc a great success. And if you get a great success, then that gear becomes tradable and you can sell it on the auction house. Otherwise, you are going to just have to extract the traits and sell the traits on the auction house for Lucent. Now, let's go back to what we were talking about before. When it comes to unlocking a slot, again, you need a dupe with that trait. So let's just say I want my last piece to be debuff duration. I will need to find general melee gators that have a debuff duration trait on it that's base, or I'm going to have to find a debuff duration general melee gator trait. So I can maybe look this up. So here it is, general melee gators. You can see that the cheapest General Melee Gator debuff duration trait is selling for 36 Lucent. If I purchase this, I can feed this into my General Melee Gators here, and I will now have my third trait unlocked. Now, what about when I upgrade the trait? When you upgrade the trait, you will not need a dupe or a trait from General Melee Gators. When I upgrade them, I can upgrade it by using any pants that has this trait. So if I want to upgrade melee or ranged evasion here, I go back into this screen, I click on this. Okay, here they are. I'm going to sort this by tier 1 because that is a tier 1 piece of gear. And I'm going to click on legs, and any one of these I will be able to feed into my General Gators. Might as well just do it for the sake of the video. You're welcome. I'm wasting my Lucent for you guys. Okay, I get to go here and bam, and you can see I've got these special resistant hawk pants that I just purchased. I'm going to be able to upgrade my ranged evasion 40 to 80, 2 out of 4 ranged evasion traits. Here we go. We feed into it. Now I have 2 out of 4 traits. That gives me 80 ranged evasion. Okay, so now that you understand that, there is one additional way of getting these traits. So if I go back to the General Melee Gators, you're going to see that I have the option. I'll go back to that screen so that it's a little bit slower. You're going to see that I have the option to unlock the trait selectively. I don't have any more of these Melee Gator traits to unlock this last one. So if I click on this, I can now use trait unlock stones in order to unlock a trait of choice. These unlock stones are not pay to winnable, and they are limited. You get them by accomplishing things. For the most part, if you go to lithograph, which is pretty much your collection book, as you feed things into this, you're going to see that you get trait unlock stones, a lot of trait unlock stones from this. I just got these pair of gloves. If I feed this into this little lithograph book, I will lose the piece of gear, but I'm going to gain 20 precious stallions and 50 trait unlock stones. These trait unlock stones are really important, and I will tell you this right now. Do not waste these on worthless pieces of gear. I know a lot of you guys that have no idea how significant this item is. I know a lot of you guys are just going to waste this, and you will be regretting it significantly. Now, the cost of the trait unlock stones depend on your piece of gear. Tier 2 is more expensive than tier 1. Weapons are more expensive than armor. Save all of these for your weapon traits, because weapon traits are going to be the most expensive depending on how soon we get tier 2. Let me show you right here. This is a tier 2 piece of gear right here. You can see right here, this is going to cost 200 trait unlock stones, which is what it costs for all tier 2 weapons, by the way. Or a tier 1 arc boss weapon also costs 200 trait unlock stones. Now, I would highly recommend saving these trait unlock stones for your arc boss weapons if you decide to pursue an arc boss weapon, which means you will need 600 if you get an arc boss weapon with a bad stat. For example, let's say you get this great sword and it comes with undead bonus damage, right? You're not going to want that, so you're going to have to swap out 3, which will cost you 600 trait unlock stones. And if you have 2 arc boss weapons, that's a total of 1200 trait unlock stones that you're going to need to save. Obviously, if you roll crit on the Tevin Despair Blade here, then you'll only need 400 trait unlock stones for this specific weapon. But just know that if you are saving for an arc boss weapon, you have to save these. Otherwise, it's just not practical. What are you going to buy? You're going to buy another arc boss Tevin weapon? That shit's going to cost you like 60k to unlock the trait because you need the dupe. Remember, arc boss weapons, no chance. When it comes to any other tier 2 weapon though, or if you accept the fact that you're just never going to get an arc boss weapon, then I would save them for the more expensive traits. For example, heavy attack is more sought out, so you're going to save the trait unlock stones to unlock heavy attack chance. Now, I am going to be talking more about market efficiency at the end of this segment, but I want you to understand the basic system of unlocking and upgrading your traits for now. All right, so let's go back to a base set of gloves here. I've got these Mother Nature gloves, Magic Endurance 40, and I happen to have a dupe of these, As you can see, this is also magic endurance, magic endurance, magic endurance. So as you should know by now, I can feed this into this piece of gear and have 80 magic endurance, 2 out of the 4 traits unlocked. And when I did that earlier in the video, you could see that it was a guarantee upgrade, no RNG involved. Now, there's an additional way to upgrade your gear. If I go back to this, as you can see, this purple equal grade, tier 1 right here, you can ignore the Wraith Knight, that's what I have equipped, but of equal tier, so I've got tier 1 purple, tier 1 purple, I can feed this into this original piece of gear or the gear piece that I'm trying to upgrade, and it will be a guaranteed 100% chance to go through. As you can see, I've got a blue piece of gear and a green piece of gear. In Throne Liberty, it goes green, blue, purple in terms of tiers. I can feed a blue lower tier, a blue grade gear into this piece of gear and have a 10% chance for it to succeed. I can also feed a green piece of gear for a 1% chance for it to succeed. Now, what happens when it fails? I'll go ahead and try. If I hit this right here, you're going to see that I know it says successful, but it actually failed and it gave me 40 blessing. That little menu, that little message that you saw there said that I successfully got 40 blessing. Now, if we go back to this gear, you're going to see that I now have 40 blessing. Blessing is your pity. You can, as you can read right here, the tooltip shows what this is. So I could actually use this blessing when I stack enough. When I stack enough blessing, I can eventually get a 100% chance for success. Let me get some more blues so that I can show you. Boom, we got them. We go back to the enchanting menu here. And we go to the Mother Nature. I have 40 blessing. I'm going to go ahead and feed this. You can see the pity bar right here. Okay, I click on this. All right, I got 80 blessing. So I'm getting 40 blessing per blue piece. I'm going to feed that in. I got lucky. I got a 10% chance for this to go, and it went. I got really lucky. I just procced a 1 out of 10 chance. Now I have, as you can see, 80 magic endurance, and it did not consume my blessing. I still have the pity. So I'm going to select one of these bad boys. If I use the blessing, because I have 80 blessing, you can see I have an additional 16% chance for success, giving me a 26% chance for this to succeed. So this gives me an opportunity to upgrade my gear without using high grade gear. I can upgrade my gear by purchasing cheaper, lower grade tiers in either Gamba or just build blessing and build pity. So this really depends on the market price. Obviously, if these blue pieces of gear are only 10 Lucent and the cheapest purple is like 1,000 Lucent, obviously it's going to be significantly cheaper to upgrade via blues. Here is money saver, Lucent saver method number 1, something that you obviously have to understand. All right, so let's continue. Let's click on, oh no. So I got insanely lucky. I actually my gosh, I actually consumed the blessing. Okay, oh my gosh, let me just, sorry, I can't even edit this because I actually proc this. So here's what happened. This shows that I got my trait to upgrade. So now I have 3, you're going to see I have 3 magic endurance, but I got insanely lucky because I used my 80 blessing that gave me a 26% chance for it to succeed. But the reason why I didn't actually intend to do that was because once you decide to use the blessing, if you fail, the blessing is gone. So usually you stack enough blessing for it to be 100% or at least 98%, and then you use the blessing. That would have been a complete waste, but I got lucky and it actually went. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and feed this in again. As you can see, it reset and I'm just getting RNG carried like crazy. I don't know what the hell is happening. I have it now max traded. Now I got really lucky and I fully traded this magic endurance for very cheap. Now, this is obviously a very important system to understand because most people or a lot of people may end up just purchasing purple grade traits. Like, oh, I've got these purple Mother Nature gloves. Some people are just going to look for specifically Mother Nature glove traits. Some people are just going to look for purple glove traits. And some people that know what they're doing are going to be looking at the market for blue traits and comparing the prices based off of the pity. So this is something that's really, really important to know. So let's go over this one more time. Okay, let's take a look at the general melee gators again. I'm gonna look at the traits here, and I've got range, evasion, melee, endurance. Let's say I want to go for max health. I'm gonna look for max health here. First, I need to see how much it is to unlock the trait. So we're gonna go to legs, tier 1, general melee gators. It's going to cost me 130 Lucent to unlock the trait because I need this first. Once I get that, then I can purchase any one of these, despite it not being a general melee gators specific trait. I can buy any one of these in order to continue to upgrade my trait. But okay, let's take a look at this. Let's say that this wasn't on the table and we've got these. This is 130 Lucent. Okay, well, let's take a look at how much rare ones are. We're gonna go back to legs here. Now, as you can see, these rare pants only cost 10 Lucent. Now, let's just say for the sake of this example, it will take you 12 attempts to pity, right? That means if I purchase 12 of these, that will cost 120 Lucent, and that will give me a guaranteed upgrade with a 10% chance for every single attempt. So I will have a 10% chance, and I can attempt it 12 times, which means realistically, I should be able to get one lucky 10% to proc within 12 attempts. And I will also have an additional upgrade from the 12 attempts because the 12 attempts will give me maximum pity in this example, right? So for me, that is definitely value. I'm going to purchase 12 of these instead of purchasing one of the purples, which would have cost me 130 Lucent. That is the way you need to go about trading out your gear if you want to save your Lucent, because believe me when I say Lucent is not very easy to farm. It's pretty difficult. All right, so we're back in the open world here. Now, the final question is, how do I sell my shit? How do I actually make money from this? Okay, well, here's how you do it. Number one, you're going to be running dungeons, and dungeons will have chests at the end of them that you can loot that will give you gear. The other way is by going into open world dungeons and farming your open world dungeon mobs, which will consume these contract tokens, and you get these contract tokens by doing other content like your contracts, which are your daily quests, as well as the dungeons that I just showed you on screen here. But you're going to go into the open world dungeons that are scattered throughout the world, farm mobs, and they also drop you gear. Now, when you get gear pieces, like let's say I got this, which I did from the open world dungeon, what I could do is I could either litho it for trade extractions right here, or I can turn it into an actual litho and sell it, or I can extract the trait from it and then sell that. Let's go buy that. Let's go through this one by one. Okay, so first, let's turn this into a lithograph. I'm going to need 2 of these lithograph armor items in order to change this piece of gear into this tradable, sellable lithograph. So for me to be efficient, I'm going to check how much are these Palace Guard visors selling for. So I'm going to go to the marketplace again here, and let me actually move my camera to the right side. I'm going to go to miscellaneous, and I'm going to type Palace, and the helmet is selling for 148 Lucent. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at ranged endurance. Let's look at how much ranged endurance is selling for. Palace Guard visor ranged endurance is selling for 68 Lucent. This, by the way, is usually the case. Lithographs are going to usually sell for more than the actual traits, but I would still double check to make sure. Now, the reason why I would double check to make sure is because you are limited to how many items you can sell on the auction house, because you are limited to how many of these scrolls. Let's go back to this. You are limited to how many of these scrolls you can farm. And if you were to turn it into a trait, if I were to turn this item into trait, I will need these trait extraction stones. And these trait extraction stones are also limited to a certain amount that you can get. So how do I get these? Well, there are a couple of different ways, but the main way is to just go to a contract manager, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go to the main city. Actually, I could just do it right here. Forgot where I was. I'm going to go to a contract manager here to Grimo. Nope. Just kidding. To Agatha, contract coin merchant. And these guys right here will sell you these items. I can buy 50 enchanted ink per week. And I can purchase 420 trait extraction stones per week. Now, there are a couple of other ways to get them through events and passes, all that stuff, but this is pretty much the main way. Now, when I go to the crafting menu, let's say I want to extract that helmet, right? I'm going to go here. I need these scrolls. As you can see, I can craft 4 right now because each one will require 25 ink. Meaning if I need 2, that will require 50 ink, along with some other materials which you can farm, but 50 ink is what it will require to sell 1 piece of armor gear. And as you can see, you get 50 ink each day. If we look at the weapons, let's look at the weapons here. The weapons, because the weapons are a different scroll. It's the weapon version of it. This requires 50 ink, which means it will take me 2 weeks to sell a weapon because it will require 2 weapon scrolls, which will be 100 enchanted ink. So this is very important for you to know. Obviously, just in general, you have to be able to sell this shit to make Lucent, but you also don't want to be wasting this on just any other weapon. Like, let's say I have this weapon here, okay? I'm going to take a look at how much this item sells for. This is a pretty solid, this is arguably one of the best sword and shields in the game. This right here, penance, the traits, because that item that I just showed you was a hit trait. The hit trait sells for 110 Lucent, 110 to 190. That's pretty good. Now, if I look at the lithograph, this sells for 339. This is very expensive, considering it will require 100 ink. It might be better for me to save the ink to extract the lithograph from armor pieces that have maybe like a 200 to 300 lithograph value, and then just use the trait extraction stones to extract the hit trait from this item, because the hit trait from this item sells for a lot more than the regular trait from any other weapon. Essentially what I'm saying is, because the hit trait for this particular weapon sells a lot, I would rather extract the trait from this item and sell it and save my ink to create lithographs from other items that sell for more. So you're obviously just going to have to check the marketplace and see which items are most valuable, because again, for the 17th time probably in this video, you are limited to how many of these you can extract and turn into lithographs, recipe material, every week. Now, there is one last thing that I actually forgot to mention. I should have mentioned this earlier, but that's okay. This has to do with when you feed gear into another piece of gear. So in Throne of Liberty, if I have this helmet here, if I have another helmet of equal grade, or another helmet that is 1 tier under, I can feed that piece of gear's experience into the new piece of gear. So if I go to equipment enchanting and I go to transfer, let's take this base tier 2 weapon, for example. I can feed this other tier 2 weapon to transfer its experience, excuse me, and as you can see, if I do this, this will turn into a +9 weapon. But another thing that I want you to notice that you get are these blessings. Remember, these blessings have to deal with upgrading your traits with lower tier traits. This weapon has 1 hit 20 trait. When I feed this bow, which is max traded, I will not get the traits to carry over. This is just going to be a +9 single trait, single hit 20 trait weapon. Now, when I feed this into this, I will get 2640 blessing, and I can use that blessing to upgrade my traits for cheaper. How do I do that? Well, since it's hit 20, what I can do is I can get a tier 1 purple weapon, because that is 1 tier below tier 2. I can get a tier 1 weapon that has hit. So let's take a look at that. We'll go into the auction house. I'm going to select this. We hit trait list. We hit hit. We select hit rather. This is a tier 2. The cheapest tier 2 right now is 104 Lucent. The cheapest tier 1 is 30 Lucent. I can purchase a tier 1 hit trait and upgrade it using the blessings that would come along with this transfer, because I have 2640 blessings, and I can do that until I use up all the blessings, allowing me to trade this back up at a much cheaper cost. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's the basics when it comes to the trading. This is, again, really, really important for you guys to know, because this is obviously something that you can be efficient with and inefficient with. Now, just so you guys know, trading is widely seen as the most pay-to-win system in Throne and Liberty. It creates the biggest gap when it comes to free-to-play and pay-to-win. However, that gap will get closed, because as you can see from the trade system, there is a hard cap that's not very difficult to get to. And once you're at that cap, you can't go any more vertical. You're pretty much done until the next set of year comes out. Yeah, I just want to let you guys know, for those of you who may be a little bit scared, thinking, well, am I ever going to be able to upgrade this all the way to max, because I'm hearing this is a pay-to-win system? Yes, you will. A free-to-play player will absolutely, in a reasonable amount of time, be able to get fully trades. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.